Going to start really broad and go specific. At the end of the day, Ivy is crazy because she is a doubler. Things in this game are balanced around resolving one time. You pay this much mana, you get this much bullshit, transaction over. So anything that doubles things or copies things like Ivy does is always going to have some level of sauce because it gives you a consistent way to generate more advantage than your opponents did for taking the same game action. Ivy is a narrow doubler. She only copies spells that are targeting one other thing, but what this can translate very well into is Mutate and Aura Voltron. Both of these things try to power up individual creatures. Aura Voltron does it with enchantments, and then Mutate does it with creatures. But since Mutate is a casting cost, it's another example of a spell that's targeting one creature, which means both of these things can be copied with Ivy, and this solves or helps address a lot of the problems that both Voltron and Mutate decks fall into, starting with speed. The main problem with Voltron decks specifically is that you can't get something to lethal damage fast enough before your opponent has built a board that can either deal with or just chump block whatever you're throwing at them. And same goes for Mutate. But with Ivy, if you're putting enchantments onto a thing, your board-wide damage is growing twice as fast. If you give something +3/+3, both the creature you gave it to and Ivy get that. So your whole board has 6 more damage. And now your Mutate triggers are happening twice as often. If you mutate something onto like a 1-mana dork, you can also mutate it onto Ivy. So whatever that when this creature mutates trigger is, probably flick your opponent in the eyeball. You get to do it 2 times now. Ivy also helps address the problems a lot of these decks have with resiliency. When you concentrate all of your advantage into one creature, if that creature ever goes bye-bye, you are back to square one. You're basically fucked out of the game. This is why a lot of the already successful Mutate decks focused on cloning in the first place. But with Ivy, since it's baked in that you're probably going to have Ivy and one other creature you're using to get the copying going, you always have a fall guy. If an opponent forces you to sacrifice a creature, or if they manage to remove Ivy, you probably have another creature that's still really, really souped up, and therefore you're not totally out of the game. I also cannot overstate how fucking good flying is on a combat damage based commander. Like at most reasonable power level tables, by turn 4 or 5, everybody will have a blocker of some sort. At most of these tables though, you will find at least one person that can't block flying and they're dead. And finally, you get a magical silver bullet to anybody else running the same strategy. If anyone else at the table is playing auras, boom, you copy it. They're doing combat tricks, boom, you copy it. They're running Mutate, you get one of those too. They can never gain advantage over you via those things, which makes the cards functionally useless.